All right, let's kick off this deep dive. We're taking a closer look at the Huffy Stone Mountain hardtail mountain bike today
Yeah.
and really digging into that Let Flee review that so many of you have been asking about.
hmm
So is this the bike that'll take you from, you know, conquering trails one day to maybe even tackling your morning commute the next?
Well, the review definitely positions this bike as a pretty versatile option. It
Okay.
seems like they're targeting those folks who want to dabble in a bit of everything.
Interesting. So like those weekend warriors who want to hit some trails but also be able to, ride comfortably around town.
Exactly. It's not a hardcore mountain bike, but it's not just a casual cruiser either, so it aims for that sweet spot in the middle.
I see. Trying to do a bit of everything. So what really stands out to you about how the Huffy tries to achieve that balance?
Well, first off, you got to look at that steel frame.
Okay.
Super durable, which is fantastic for off-roading. You know you're going to encounter rocks and bumps, and you want something that can handle it. But steel can be a bit heavier than, say, aluminum, so that's something to keep in mind, especially if you're going to be tackling a lot of hills.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed that aluminum bikes tend to be a bit more, well, agile, I guess.
Right.
But if durability is your top priority, maybe that extra weight is a worthwhile trade-off.
Exactly. It all depends on what you're looking for in a bike.
Okay, so steel frame, check. What about the gearing? The review mentioned Shimano twist shifting with 21 speeds.
Yep, pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, standard isn't necessarily bad, especially for someone who's maybe newer to mountain biking.
Okay,
Shimano's twist shifters are known for being super user-friendly,
got it.
and their components are generally pretty reliable, so you're not going to be stuck out on the trail because a gear suddenly decides to give up on you.
That's always a good thing.
Right, nobody wants that.
Now, let's talk suspension. The Huffy comes in front, or dual suspension options.
Yeah.
Help me out here. When does that choice really matter?
That's where it really comes down to picturing yourself on your ideal ride.
Cool.
Imagine you're hitting some single-track trails, lots of roots and rocks.
I'm already wincing thinking about it.
Right. Well, that's where that dual suspension really shines. It
Okay.
absorbs all those impacts, gives you a much smoother and more controlled ride.
So for those rougher trails, dual suspension is the way to go.
Yeah.
But for smoother paths, or even just road riding, front suspension might be enough.
Exactly.
And probably a bit lighter too, right?
Exactly. It all comes back to matching the bike to how you're actually going to use it.
Makes sense. Now, you know me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about comfort, especially for those longer rides.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Let Flee review made a point of highlighting the comfort saddle.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just, marketing fluff, or is that something worth paying attention to?
No, comfort is crucial. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. A good saddle can make or break a long ride. Seriously.
I believe it.
And it's something that a lot of people overlook when they're choosing a bike. They get caught up in all the technical specs and forget about, the simple things that actually make a ride enjoyable.
So true. Because a sore backside can ruin even the most scenic of rides.
Oh, absolutely.
So comfort saddle, check. Speaking of getting the right fit, the Huffy comes in a few sizes, but the review seemed to really focus on that 24-inch model.
Right. And they recommend that size for riders between 4'6" and 5'6", roughly.
Got it.
But as always, it's smart to double check against your own height. I mean, there's nothing worse than feeling like you're, crammed or stretched out on a bike.
No, it sounds awful.
Yeah, it can completely throw off your balance and make for a really uncomfortable ride.
Okay, so we've got a pretty good handle on the bike's key features, but how does it actually perform out on the trails?
Yeah.
The review talked about its capabilities across different terrains, from off-road trails to forest paths, and even urban roads, so let's break that down.
Sure.
Starting with those off-road trails.
Well, those knobby tires are made to grip uneven surfaces. Give you better traction on things like loose dirt and gravel. That's exactly what you need when you're out on the trails.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember riding a bike with smoother tires on a trail once,
Ooh.
and it was just like slipping and sliding all over the place.
Yeah, not fun.
Not fun at all.
And with those 21 speeds, you'll be able to tackle those steep climbs,
Yeah.
and you can find a comfortable cadence on the flatter sections.
Okay, so it sounds like it's well equipped for those off-road adventures.
Yeah, they've definitely designed it with a variety of terrain challenges in mind.
What about those, forest paths? Those ones that are a little bit rougher than a paved path,
Yeah,
but not quite full-on mountain biking trails.
I think with decent suspension, the Huffy should handle those paths just fine.
Okay.
The key is going to be choosing the right suspension setup, whether that's front or dual, depending on just how rough those paths typically are.
It's all about finding that sweet spot, right?
Exactly. Comfort and efficiency.
Now, let's be real. Could I hop on this bike to, like, grab groceries or commute to work? Is it going to work for urban riding?
It's not specifically designed for urban riding, but the Huffy could probably handle it.
Okay.
Those wider tires, they might feel a bit sluggish on paved roads compared to a dedicated road bike with those thinner tires.
Right.
But it's definitely doable, especially for shorter distances.
Okay, so maybe not winning any races on the road, but good enough for, like, casual city riding.
Exactly. Just depends on your needs.
Now, let's talk about those pros and cons that the review highlighted.
Sure.
They gave the Huffy a lot of praise for its size options. Having that durable frame, those multiple speeds we talked about, the comfortable seat, and of course the suspension choices.
Yeah, they seem pretty impressed overall.
But they did mention a couple of downsides.
They did.
Why those?
One of the things they pointed out was the difficulty of assembly.
Yeah.
Putting a bike together can be a bit of a puzzle, especially if you're not super familiar with bike mechanics.
I can imagine.
But there are tons of resources available online, like those step-by-step YouTube tutorials. Those can really help you through the process.
So a little patience and maybe a good YouTube video.
Yeah, exactly.
And you should be good to go.
And remember, most bike shops will offer assembly services if you'd rather leave it to the professionals for a small fee.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's worth it to pay a little extra and just have it done right.
Definitely. Especially if you're not confident in your own abilities.
What about that other downside they mentioned?
Well, the review did mention that the Huffy is heavier than some of those aluminum frame bikes out there.
Right, which we talked about earlier.
Exactly. It's that trade-off between durability and weight.
Yeah.
It's something to keep in mind, especially if you're planning on doing a lot of uphill riding.
Makes sense.
But if you want a sturdy frame that can handle some rough terrain, that extra weight might be a worthwhile compromise.
It's all about picking the right tool for the job, right? If you're going to be tackling those tough trails, that durable steel frame is going to be a major plus.
Absolutely. You got to think about your priorities.
Okay, so taking everything into account, is the Huffy Stone Mountain worth it?
Well, from what we've seen so far,
Yeah.
It seems like a really solid option for anyone who's looking for a budget-friendly, versatile bike that can handle a mix of on- and off-road adventures.
So it ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of people.
It really does.
But the big question is,
Yeah.
does it align with your needs and riding style?
Mm.
That's what we really need to dig into.
Absolutely. We need to think about what you, the listener, are looking for in a bike.
Let's do it.
So let's say, you're planning a weekend getaway.
Okay.
You want to explore some trails near your campsite, but also maybe cruise around town for supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Does the Huffy fit that picture?
That's a great way to put it,
Yeah.
It really makes you think about how you actually plan to use the bike.
Exactly. Think about, the terrain you'll encounter, the distances you'll be riding, how much comfort you're looking for.
Yeah, because if I'm picturing myself tackling some serious trails, I'd probably want that dual suspension for a smoother ride.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's more about, exploring gravel paths, maybe cruising around town, then front suspension might be a better fit.
Makes sense.
It's probably lighter and more efficient for those longer rides.
Precisely. And don't forget about choosing the right frame size.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's absolutely crucial for a comfortable ride.
Right.
Don't just rely on those general recommendations.
Okay.
Really consider your height, your inseam measurements, all that.
Because you want that bike to sit like a glove.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to feel cramped or stretched out.
No, that sounds miserable.
Yeah, it can totally ruin the experience.
Okay, so we've covered, the features, how it performs on different terrains, and even thought about some real-world riding scenarios.
Right.
But I want to come back to something you mentioned earlier, comfort.
Oh.
It's easy to get lost in all those technical details, but comfort should never be an afterthought.
You're absolutely right. And, that's one area where the Huffy Stone Mountain seems to stand out.
Yeah. What do you think about that comfort saddle?
Oh, a comfortable saddle can be a game changer, especially for those longer rides.
Especially if you're prone to, getting a sore backside from cycling.
Oh, tell me about it. I've been there.
Yeah, not fun.
And remember, comfort isn't just about the saddle.
Okay.
You got to think about the handlebars, the grips,
Right.
even the overall geometry of the bike.
So it's about how all those elements work together.
Yeah. A well-fitting bike should feel natural and intuitive to ride.
I like that.
It'll reduce fatigue and discomfort.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not just about one specific feature. It's about the whole package.
Exactly.
And I think the best way to get a sense of that is to actually test out the bike in person.
Absolutely. A test ride can tell you so much. You can feel how the bike handles, how comfortable it is, if it really suits your riding style.
Yeah, because you might need to, adjust the seat height,
Yeah,
the handlebar position, maybe even swap out those grips for something that feels a bit better in your hands.
totally. And it's worth remembering that a bike is an investment, right? It's an investment in your health, your well-being.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a way to get exercise, enjoy the outdoors, maybe even explore some new places.
So taking the time to find that perfect bike that fits you well and meets your needs, that's definitely an investment worth making.
Absolutely. It's not just a mode of transportation, it's a pathway to adventure.
I love that.
Yeah.
And speaking of adventure, before we wrap up, I want to remind everyone that you can find a link to that full Let Flay review in the episode description.
Yeah, go check it out.
It's got even more details and insights that might help you, make that final decision.
And as you continue your bike research,
Yeah.
keep this question in mind. If the Huffy Stone Mountain isn't the perfect fit for you, what features or aspects would you prioritize in another model?
Yeah, that's a really good one to think about.
Yeah, because maybe you're looking for a lighter frame or a specific type of suspension, or maybe even just, some aesthetic features that really speak to your personal style.
Right, because it's all about identifying those must-haves.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
deal breakers that'll help you find the bike that's going to be your trusty companion on all your future adventures.
Exactly. So keep exploring, keep dreaming, and most importantly, keep riding.
I like that. Keep riding.
Well, we've come to the end of our deep dive into the Huffy Stone Mountain hardtail mountain bike.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're feeling inspired to hit the trails or maybe just, cruise around your neighborhood.
Absolutely. Whether you're, a seasoned cyclist or just starting out,
Yeah,
the joy of riding a bike is something special.
it really is.
And finding the right bike,
Mm.
the one that makes you want to get out there,
Mm-hmm.
that's a reward in itself.
Remember, this is just one bike. There are so many possibilities out there.
Right.
So if the Huffy Stone Mountain isn't the right fit for you,
Yeah.
don't worry, there's a bike out there for everyone.
Exactly.
Just keep researching, keep comparing,
Mhm.
and most importantly,
Yeah.
keep asking yourself those questions about what you want.
I like that.
Your riding style, your budget, your adventure goals.
It's all about finding the bike that fits you.
Exactly.
Well said. And speaking of finding the right bike,
Yeah?
before we go, I just want to remind everyone that you can find a link to that full Let Fly review in the episode description.
Yep. Go check it out.
It's got even more details and insights that might help you, make that final decision.
And remember,
Yeah.
as you continue your research, keep those key questions in mind.
Like we talked about.
What type of riding are you planning on doing?
Yeah.
What features are most important to you?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what's your budget?
Those are the big ones.
By answering those honestly, you'll be well on your way to finding, the bike of your dreams.
Absolutely. Now, before we sign off,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with just one final thought to ponder.
Oh, I like it.
Remember that feeling of pure joy you had as a kid riding your bike?
Yeah.
The wind in your face, the freedom to explore.
It never really goes away, does it?
It doesn't, does it?
Yeah.
There's something truly magical about experiencing the world from the seat of a bicycle.
Absolutely. And, finding the right bike can really reignite that passion for you.
Yeah, I think so too.
It opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
It's not just about transportation.
Right.
It's about adventure,
Yes.
exploration,
Yeah.
Connecting with your surroundings in a way that you just can't do in a car.
Well said. I couldn't agree more.
And whether you end up choosing the Huffy Stone Mountain or a completely different model,
Yeah.
I hope this deep dive has given you, the knowledge and the inspiration
Mm-hmm.
to embark on your own two-wheel journey.
The perfect bike is out there waiting for you.
It is.
The one that speaks to your inner explorer.
I love that.
The one that's just begging to be taken on an adventure.
And when you find it, let us know. We'd love to hear all about your adventures.
Absolutely. Share those stories with us.
Until then, happy trails.
Happy trails, everyone.